I'm confused by the paddle concept with the hybrid event. So is that, if you have live guests and virtual guests and a silent auction that runs until about 9 that night, where I don't know where the paddles come in. I don't know if Kevin or Crystal understood that any better than me from our event, but that's where I was struggling, because typically we just have people either bid completely on paper or completely online.
So this is the experience that Paybee has, which is unique compared to all the other competitors, right? What we strongly believe in, that donors should participate in an experience that's natural to them, right? Again, at your event, you don't want them to be opening their phones and looking at their screens, not focusing on the event, because then they'll get on Instagram and SMS, and then you've lost their attention. So at your in-person audience, they will have paddles, which they will be raising every time they want to pledge or they want to bid. You can have a clerk at your event. So one of your team members will be trained to be the clerk, and they'll be capturing paddle raises in real time. And then the pledge goes into their cart. So this is for your in-person audience. Does that part make sense?
Yes, it does for a live auction, but it doesn't for
Make sense? Live auction, I can get to a silent auction as well. So this would be for the pledge drive, as well as the live auction or last hero, or any other fundraising games that you have, right? So your in-person audience will be raising their paddles. Your virtual guests will be hitting the buttons just like you did during the demo. Clear so far?
Okay, so virtual guests, buttons. Yep.
Okay, now let's get to the silent auction or the online auction that you were talking about. You can open this up a few days before your event, and then you can continue it at your event. I'm gonna share my screen just to show you how our system generates bid sheets. Let me open that up. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can use these ones, which I recommend for you. This would have the name of your item, an image, the description, and a QR code on it. So if they wanted to place a bid at your event, they would just scan this code using their own phone, and then they can place a bid. And somebody who they outbid, who was sitting at home and didn't come to your event, would get notified, oh, you've been outbid, so that they can bid again. And your online silent auction can.
So how will the person know if they wanted to bid on, in person using the QR code? How do they know what the current bid is?
When they scan it, they'll see it.
Okay, so that is the scanning doesn't actually bid. The
Current bid,
so
that is correct. It'll show you what the current bid is, and then they can choose to place the bid.
Scanning opens up. That makes sense.
Can you bid using the QR code if you didn't register?
They want.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay,
you don't
so
need
if
to be
someone
registered,
just shows up that night at the event, okay.
Totally. We want to make sure everybody can bid, whether they've come to your event or not, whether they've registered or not, because the more bids you get, the better for you.
Okay, cool. So the paddles would just be for our live auction item.
Exactly. And your pledge drive underneath.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a question on the registration process.
Yeah.
In the registration, do you have a choice for us to require credit card to complete your registration? Because the question I asked is that I can see, in our demo, when we just went through, we didn't check out until the end, and we didn't enter the credit card until the end. And so I just want to avoid the confusion. What if somebody just raised the pedals and then win the bids and then did not end up, closing out their cards? We can keep on sending reminders, but it just makes it so much more complicated. We have to chase after donors.
Totally. What you can do is at the time of check-in, and this is by choice, right? If you want, you can do a pre-swipe. So we will send you card readers that look like this, right? And when you're checking in your guests, you can ask them, hey, would you like to put a credit card on file? And then you can just tap on it and it gets associated to them, or you can swipe or insert as well. So you can do that at your in-person event at check-in time.
Right? And how can I find out that information, like in terms of like the packaging? I know you mentioned that there are partners that you would refer us for, event planning, or even people, the clerks that record the bids. Where can we find that information?
Sure. So I can share a link with you while I'm waiting for more questions to come in. Our partner website, you're welcome. And they all list out the services that they provide. So you can reach out to them and speak to them. Clerk, you mentioned clerk could be somebody who's in your team who could handle it. Again, it's pretty easy to capture bids and pledges, and we'll be training. So if you have a volunteer who's comfortable with phones, most of us are, they could just punch in the bids for you if you wanted, or you can get help as well. Both options are available. That makes sense? Yeah. Okay.
So Backend you would need for the virtual audience, you need someone to MC a pledge drive and a live auction. And then
You're trying to make a list of all the roles that you'll need.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I can run you through that, right? So you'll need one person, somebody who's going to be your host, your MC, who's, are you planning a hybrid event? It seems like you are.
yeah, we have our first hybrid gala last November. We're planning it this November again, but we didn't have good virtual engagement. So we're trying to create more hybrid engagement and opportunities without taking away from the event and all the other components that go into a
Right, Julia?
so
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So I can go through the roles if it helps, right? So you'll have your host, and it could be the same host who's at your in-person event, same person who's on stage, and you can have a camera feed, which is showing him or her to your virtual audience. So that's your host. Then you'll have a producer on site who's controlling the cameras, the mics, the speakers, and it could be somebody on his team, his or her team, or it could be the same person who's also controlling the virtual feed. So they're controlling what the virtual audience is seeing in that video portion of the event. So you'll have your production team, right? This producer who's running the virtual portion could either be on site or they could also be remote, doesn't matter. Again, most of our roles, somebody can be remote, they don't have to be on site. And then apart from that, you'll need one person in your team running the Paybee backend. They're just launching, now we're gonna be on the $2,500 pledge drive level. Now we're switching to $1,000 level. So somebody who's just hitting those buttons. And one person will be the clerk who's punching in the live paddle raises as your host or your
live events.
But the clerk is only active during the live auction, recording paddles.
Auction your call. Yeah. So typically we say, yes, have a dedicated person so they know their role. And when you're going to start your fundraising, they'll just kind of go stand near the stage or wherever your host is so that, they can work together and just keep listening to the host and just keep punching them. And just like you saw the demo, it's very, very quick entry. So it should go in really fast. Yeah. Okay, Crystal, I saw your question coming in about obtaining it at registration. This is a feature that's in our pipeline. When is your event planned?
No.
For? Oh, yeah. By then, we should definitely have it for sure. So it can be collected at
December. Just because I think that would be easier even than the swipe. I just think people are not gonna swipe. I don't know.
Registration. At our events right now, people do, and it stays connected to their car. And then at the end of the event, either they can do a self-checkout. If you're using your paddles, you have QR codes on it. So they could do a self-checkout, or they can walk up to one of your team members and say, hey, just charge the credit card on file, or here's another one. I'm going to use a different card. And both options are okay.
I have a more technical question.
Sure.
Where can I see, because I know in your plan, it's a one-time fee for 2 years. Where can I see when does that expire on my account?
What's the name of your organization? I can check for you.
Okay.
If you'd like to stay back for a minute, right after Q&A, I'm happy to check.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
You had mentioned, I asked the question about how many cameras were supported, and you had said depend on the production software. Could you talk about that aspect again? How does that tie in with the?
So on StreamYard, which is the virtual production tool that we were using, you can send out invitations to all the speakers. Right. So in today's demo, Laurie was our producer. She sent out an invitation.
Paybee. No, I don't mean that. I mean, how does the
physical
StreamYard,
cameras?
how does the StreamYard fit in with Paybee? That's a separate, we have to purchase that, or is that, how does?
To Tony. So are you familiar with OBS, Emacs,
No.
Live, a whole bunch of these systems, right? Okay, so a producer will have some system that they're using, right? They'll have their switchboard, they'll have the cameras that connect to the switchboard, and then it connects to a computer, right? And then that's where they're choosing that. Okay, now let's show camera feed 1, and now let's show camera feed 2.
That's the part
that's a different system. That's
I'm missing
within
it.
Paybee.
That's the part I'm missing, is the connection between the two. So Paybee has that, the producer has that screen where they're selecting what to do. That's not actually.
That's the part I actually.
That is not Paybee. That is not Paybee.
Okay.
And once they select what to do, it all gets stitched up together. It gets sent across the internet on YouTube, for example, one of the streaming softwares. And then the link, that YouTube link that gets created, you put it into Paybee. So Paybee shows the video in the
Paybee, that's, all right, I see now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Julia, did you get the name of that? I didn't write it down.
StreamYard, I can write it down for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I can send you a link to all our documentation as well, which
Thank you. That'd be
explains how
helpful.
you can set it up, how you can connect. And if you have any questions, again, it's not our software, but if you have questions, we are happy.
I should have.
Yeah.
I see Julia's dutifully taking notes there, and I'm not taking a single one. So
Here you go. I'm going to paste a link here as well. So this has all the production stuff that you need. It'll pretty much address everything you need, this document.
When it comes to Checkin, is that something people can do on their own? Or is, so I got a little lost when we were doing that in the demo. The live guest got a QR code. Is that when they show up, the people responsible at Checkin just scan their code on their phone and it pops up yes or no, or?
So you'll have your volunteer team, right, who are going to handle check-in, and they will be trained before the event. So when they show up to the event, they're ready to go. The volunteers will be using their own phones, and they're going to get a Paybee app. Your guests don't need any app at all. The guests would show up, they'll show their email with the ticket, with the QR code. They'll say, hey, and then your volunteer can just scan, check them in. It'll say, oh, they're at paddle 147. So go pick up 147, hand it over to them, tell them, oh, you're going to be on table 6. You'll do the table assignment as well. And then you tell the guest is on their way, and then the volunteer is ready for the next guest to check them in. And then again, depending on the guest and depending on their situation, if they're a walk-in, the volunteer can handle a walk-in as well. Just pick up an empty paddle with nothing assigned and assign it to them and give it to the guests. Or if it's already pre-assigned, you can just go get the number and give it to them. Make sense? Yeah. I know y'all had a question about, I think Crystal had the question about name card. This is the size of the tent card. And this is what it looks like. It has the name of the guest on one side. It has the paddle number and the table as well. And then on the other side, it has a really big paddle number listed with the QR code. So they can do self-checkout. So a lot of our organizations would hand these out at the time of check-in. Because if you give them the paddle, they're going to stick it in their armpit, and they'll go have a drink, and then they'll leave it somewhere. And then you're frantically looking, where is the paddle at the time of, your fundraising? So you can give them the tent card at the time of check-in, and then on their table, place your paddles. It's going to be the exact same number with the name of the guest on it as well. So you can place the paddles just stacked up on the table, ask, hey, everybody, go get your paddle from the middle of the table. Let's raise, let's see you all hold your paddle. So they're ready for your fundraising.
What if you don't assign tables?
That's okay. You don't have to.
Okay.
Everything's optional. You can pick and choose which features you want to use
Okay.
relevant to your event. You have open seating? Is that what you're thinking? Or
Other seats. We
just
do
general area?
tables and open seating.
Okay.
For those people who it's easier to sign up their family at once and just buy a table. For our sponsors who get a table, some of that stuff's a little easier. And then we let other people sign up on their own.
So for sponsors, we do have a feature. People can buy tables, and then with Paybee, they in turn can invite rest of their friends and family. So for example, if Julia bought a table, then Julia can say, oh, I'm inviting Kevin for 2 spots. Then Kevin will get an invitation. You're invited to Julia's table, and he can respond, yes, I'll come or not. And then he can put in his meal preference. So the idea is that, the actual guest can put in their preferences so that it all gets fed back into the system. Because obviously the organizer doesn't know all the 10 people who are sitting on the table, but Julia is likely to know, and the guests themselves are likely to respond that, hey, I'll make it or not. And worst case, if they don't do it, they can always walk in and say, oh, I'm supposed to be Julia's guest. And, they can still get checked in.
And what about the fundraising games?
Mm-hmm.
So does that come through Paybee, or is that part of the virtual services that we'd be looking into through like StreamYard? Like if we wanted to find something engaging for our guests.
Which game were you thinking?
I'm not sure. We need to add something to the evening for our virtual guests. So part of what I think we have in mind is the musical performance at the event being streamed to our virtual guests. So having them enjoy some of the music, maybe 3 songs, participate in the live auction, the same as everyone else, and then something else to kind of get them talking to each other in the chat, learning about each other in the virtual room. So some sort of like icebreaker, challenging trivia, escape room, something like that, for our virtual guests. That's sort of what we're looking at, is to apply both components and be able to do it from 1 or 2 locations.
So if you're sharing something on screen and if they need to respond via chat, you can totally do that on Paybee. We have some organizations who make them pledge $1 to show a vote, or, if you want to participate in this game, then you make a pledge, or Last Hero, for example. You can get your virtual audience to participate that way. If you wanted them to come on camera, like we are doing right now, then we would suggest have a pre-party on Zoom or a post-party on Zoom if you wanted them to turn on their cameras. But you can connect them just like we did today, where I pasted the link and then all of you came here. So you can do that. They just have to click on it and then they would join on Zoom. We've had organizations do celebrity Pictionary, for example, right? So you have a celebrity who's drawing and everybody's responding on chat. That can be done on Paybee. So think of what game you want to host, and then during our onboarding session or something, we can brainstorm with you and tell you the best way to host that game. And if you want to host games for your in-person audience and you just want to, hey, it's $20 to participate in this raffle, or $50, all that can totally be done. We can set up campaigns for you and you can just keep adding things to their cart. Yeah. Crystal has a question about sending pictures to be uploaded during the event. For your virtual event, Crystal, like a feed or something?
For both, hybrid and for.
So I would, there are different softwares out there. You could either set up a Twitter feed with a hashtag. People are tweeting there, or email it to an account or something of that sort. And then you can show it up on the screen. We actually came across this interesting software. It's a photo booth. It's a virtual photo booth. So you can put up a code, a QR code, and people can just scan, take their own picture, and then it becomes a part of a feed. And then you can show that on your projector screen for your in-person audience. And you can show it to your virtual audience as well. I can look up the name if you're interested.
That would be great.
Yeah. Sure. I'm going to look up as we speak. Any other questions from anybody? So this, I spoke to this person who runs this company, and they can set up custom filters for you with the name of your event so that all the pictures that get uploaded, get tagged with your event name and your organization logos. It might be pretty fun. Give me a second. I'm going to look up. So we are running up. Are you all an existing client, Julia, or you a new?
Nope, I did a demo on my own, and then I invited members of our planning committee to do a full demo today, so that we have a committee meeting tomorrow night, and we just want to share what we learned today with them.
Great. So we are running a promotion right now. So if you sign up in the next 2 weeks of watching this demo, we'll waive off $100 of your onboarding fee. So hybrid events for you would be $499 instead of $599, and virtual events would be $299 instead of $399. We'll share that coupon code via email right after this call, so you can take advantage of that. All right. Okay. Any other questions from anybody?
Nope, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I just have that one question, how to check the status if you,
Oh, yes. I'm still, I'm not leaving. So this company is called, virtual photo booth. I think that's what you need to look for. Virtual. I'm just doing a Google search. Yeah, I'm seeing a whole bunch of links pop up. Maybe you can try out to see which one fits your needs. Virtual photo booth, yeah. Okay. All right. If you don't have any more questions, thank you so much for coming. And I'm happy to stay back if you want to chat more. But thank you all. Good to meet you. Bye-bye.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Julia.
If you have like a host MC and I'm just talking to the screen as is, and then like I'm in one location and then I want someone else to take over. So like say we do a pre-party and we have a host who's doing it from their home. They do a trivia game for a half hour, and then it goes to the live event where I want to introduce our musician and our host and have a little musical performance, our live auction, which we know will be interactive, or, move it over right into the live auction before we do, and then end with some musical performances for the night, something set up like that. Do we need a producer in that sense, or just two people who can hop on as hosts?
And MCs.
So you'll definitely need a producer at your venue.
Okay.
To kind of control, right? That switching, we have camera feed one coming and now we're going to switch to the feed coming from somebody's home. Somebody to do that switching. Right? It
Okay.
could be somebody in your team, it could be a producer, but you definitely need somebody to make that change because the input is changing.
Okay.
Right.
And if they're in the same location, it's one computer and the host.
They might need two computers because producers typically use their own software and they might be monitoring what's showing on your projector screen on another computer. So speak to the producer, they'll bring their own systems typically.
Change.
Wow.
Yeah, we've never brought in any sort of.
Now brought a producer.
Typically. If you needed recommend and just wanted to speak to a couple, let us know. We can send you some referrals. Speak to them, get an idea of what it takes, and we're happy to chat with you as well if you have questions.
Yeah, no.
Let
Yeah,
us
I
know.
think that's the only part. It seems easy to use, but I'm just trying to think of how we make that a reality in our situation.
So one other option, again, depends on if you want to go fancy, you want to go professional, that's totally fine too. There's also a DIY kind of solution where you could pretty much just have Zoom running and your speaker from home is also connected on Zoom, and then you're just showing that in StreamYard and showing that at home. So that's possible as well. Pretty much all options are possible. It just depends on the kind of quality you want and what kind of effect you want your donors to have and what your budget is, of course. Why don't you all think about that? And we are happy to discuss with you and make recommendations, and then you can choose to use
Okay.
those or not. Yeah? Sounds good. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to stay back with Crystal for a moment and help her out. But good to meet you all. Let us know if you have any questions, okay? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.